The FBI stands as the most sophisticated law enforcement agency in the world, relentlessly pursuing the most dangerous criminals. When two deaf college students are savagely killed in their own dorm rooms, the entire community begins pointing fingers at one another in raw fear and confusion. The Bureau mobilizes at once. The killer had gained easy access to both dorm rooms and carried out these brutal acts completely unnoticed. Who could have access to both of these students? Who would have a motive for something so horrific? Everyone starts whispering that a serial killer is loose among them. It is a quiet day on the campus of Gallaudet University, known as the Harvard of Higher Education for the Deaf. Surrounded on all four sides by fencing, the campus feels like a tranquil island set in the middle of one of Washington, D.C.'s roughest neighborhoods. Just beyond those fences, muggings happen in an instant. Yet the barriers themselves never truly feel safe because danger can strike just as easily inside an island as outside it. In Cogswell Hall, a male student approaches resident advisor Sienna Brooks with clear nervousness. He explains that he was supposed to meet Trevor Langley for a tutoring session. Sienna suggests they wait a few minutes in case Trevor simply runs late, but the young man grows insistent. He wants her to check the room. He also mentions that Trevor's room has begun to smell strange. Sienna follows him down the hall to Trevor's door at the far end. She notices the door is closed, an unusual sight for the outgoing freshman who lives with a mild case of cerebral palsy and keeps his door open to everyone. She cannot enter alone. The rule requires a second person present, and that person must be male. She finds resident advisor Rylan Pierce. Rylan is in his own room when Sienna appears. He asks what is going on. She tells him someone reported that Trevor's room smells odd. They decide to investigate together. As Rylan approaches the door, a deep unease settles over him. It feels wrong to see it closed. Trevor always welcomed anyone at any hour. Rylan rings the doorbell several times. Above the door, a light flashes inside the room with each ring, yet there is no response. He uses his master key, opens the door, and switches on the light. What greets them is pure horror. A large red splotch stains the floor. Rylan follows the trail of spots and finds Trevor lying face down. Horrified, Rylan rushes to his side. His first desperate thought is that it might only be a seizure. Then he sees the volume of blood scattered through the room and knows the truth. He tells Sienna to call campus security while he runs for their supervisor. When he reaches his boss, he can manage only one word: death. They hurry back. Metropolitan Police arrive. It is immediately clear that Trevor's death was no accident. A broken chair lies in the room, and investigators conclude he was struck repeatedly with it and pieces of it. Could someone have slipped onto campus and broken into the room to rob him? Officers search carefully, yet nothing appears out of place. The computer remains untouched. Other valuables stay right where they belong. Detectives doubt robbery was the motive. That leaves a chilling question. Did a cold-hearted killer break in, or does the enemy already live inside Gallaudet's walls? Technicians carefully gather blood samples, hairs, fibers, and fingerprints, hoping DNA will lead them to a suspect. Trevor's mother and stepfather, Marlene and Quentin Hartwell, are asleep in Minnesota when police arrive at their door. The telephone rings at the exact moment of a loud knock. Marlene answers the phone first and learns the police are downstairs. Moments later, the officers enter and confirm that Trevor was a student at Gallaudet in Washington, D.C. Then they deliver the devastating news. There has been an altercation, and he is dead. Trevor's sister reaches their father, Baron Langley, in Oregon. She asks if the police have already come to his door. When he says no, she tells him they found Trevor dead in his dorm room. Baron walks to the single chair he always sits in and remains there the entire day, unable to move. Word spreads rapidly across the small campus. Everyone is stunned. Though Trevor was new, he had already become popular. People keep asking why him. Some quietly wonder if his cerebral palsy and the isolated location of his room at the end of the hallway made him an easier target. Detectives begin interviewing witnesses. Because of the language barrier, every conversation becomes slow and painstaking. Interpreters are required, nuances are easily lost, and the process stretches far longer than usual. They finally uncover intriguing details. Trevor was homosexual and had recently become secretary of a campus club for gay and lesbian students. Fear rises that the killing was a hate crime. One student even reports seeing another student sign "One less faggot" after Trevor's death. Suspicion and blame ripple through the community. Another possibility emerges. Could Trevor have been killed by a lover? The crime scene suggests a crime of passion, the work of someone with an emotional attachment to him. A potential suspect surfaces when a student reveals that Trevor had been in a romantic relationship. The student knows only a first name, Preston, and a last initial B. Was Trevor killed by his boyfriend, by an angry student, or by a complete stranger? It is a riddle only the FBI will ultimately answer, but not before the campus plunges deeper into a bloody nightmare. Less than a day after 19-year-old freshman Trevor Langley is beaten to death, fear grips every student. A makeshift memorial grows outside his dorm window. A vigil gathers in front of Cogswell Hall. Flowers and photographs of Trevor cover a tree as the community tries to mourn. Grief-stricken, Trevor's mother, stepfather, and sister arrive in Washington and are taken straight to the precinct. They expect information. Instead, detectives interview them. There is a reason. During the search of Trevor's room, officers discovered that his computer was still powered on. He had been instant messaging his sister Celeste, likely the last person to see him alive. Detectives need to know every detail of that final conversation. Celeste tells them Trevor seemed completely normal, except for one eerie moment. While they talked on webcam, she noticed someone lingering near his door. The family leaves the precinct and makes the grim trip to campus. Marlene flashes back to the day she left Trevor at Galladay. She hugged him and said the usual goodbye, telling him she did not want to leave. He answered, "Mom, you don't have to worry about me. I'll be fine." Those were the last words he ever spoke to her in person. With only a fuzzy webcam image as a lead, detectives continue working. They focus on resident advisor Rylan Pierce, the man who found the body. He possesses a master key to every room in the building. It is standard procedure to scrutinize the person who discovers a body. At the same time, they track down the student named Preston B., who allegedly dated Trevor. Reviewing logbooks and records, they identify him as Preston Hale, a freshman with no criminal record and no disciplinary problems. The two had apparently suffered a falling out sometime before the murder. Detectives debate whether the killer targeted Trevor for being homosexual or whether Preston himself killed his former friend. Desperate for answers, they bring the young man in for questioning. For more than 2 hours, they interview him. Preston admits he and Trevor had been close and that they argued when he ended the relationship. During that argument, he pushed Trevor down. Once he admits to physical violence, the interview ends. Officers order him to stand, place him in handcuffs, and arrest him for the murder of Trevor Langley. They treat the admission as a confession that he beat Trevor to death. Metropolitan Police charge Preston with second-degree murder, but not everything is as it seems. One should never lock into a single theory without challenging it at every step. Just hours after the arrest, sensational news of one deaf student killing another on a world-renowned campus floods the airwaves. Newspapers and the internet carry the story. Trevor's family finds it surreal to see their son's name attached to such horror. Police remain convinced the motive was a simple falling out between the two young men. They collect fingerprints, blood, and handwriting samples from Preston to compare with evidence from the scene. Then comes a shocking turn. The U.S. Attorney's Office declares there is not enough probable cause for the arrest and that the case will be thrown out. To everyone's surprise, Preston is released, though he remains the chief suspect. Trevor's family learns of the dramatic development on the day of his funeral. The news makes no sense. He had confessed. Once again, the campus is gripped with fear. Students look over their shoulders. They complain to the university president, who assures them Preston will not return until the investigation is finished and that he has been suspended. Preston goes home to New Hampshire, yet students cannot stop wondering whether a killer has been set free. Trevor's mother writes an open letter encouraging the community to stay calm. She hopes the tragedy will not deter other students from pursuing their dreams at Gallaudet. She reminds them that Trevor's time there had been a wonderful first step toward independence. Classes eventually resume. Everyone feels a fragile optimism that the new semester will be better. That hope shatters in the early morning hours when a fire alarm sounds in Cogswell Hall, the same dorm where Trevor was killed. Flashing lights alert the profoundly deaf students. Resident advisors go room to room, ensuring everyone evacuates. Sienna sees the expression on another RA's face after he checks the 4th floor. He looks down at their supervisor and says there is another one. Another dead body. Sienna cannot believe it. This cannot be happening again. Detective Harlan Briggs of the Metropolitan Police arrives. The room is in such disarray and the victim so badly injured that no one can make a positive identification at first. With the second body on their hands, the department immediately reaches out to the federal agency equipped for high-profile homicides, the FBI. Special Agent Weston Pryor, a forensics expert, has personal ties to the case. Colleagues of his have children enrolled at Gallaudet. He feels a deep personal investment. When he reaches the scene, it is clear the victim has been stabbed repeatedly in the chest and head. His throat has also been slashed. The body lies on the floor beyond a bed, whose mattress has been turned over. Blood covers the victim and spatters the walls. The victim is identified as 19-year-old Holden Crane, a quiet sophomore from Texas known for his kindness and helpfulness. Several important items are missing: his wallet, debit cards, and checkbook. This time, the attacker left abundant evidence: a trail of bloody shoe prints leading out of the room, down the hall, and out of the building, past a dumpster. Inside the dumpster, investigators find a bloody jacket. Detective Briggs backs his truck up to the dumpster. Agents climb in and begin emptying its contents. They discover the bloody knife. They now possess shoe prints, a jacket, and a knife. Will the evidence be enough to stop the killer before he strikes again? Everyone believes a serial killer is among them. Students fear for their personal safety, convinced the killer is still targeting Gallaudet students. 4 months after Trevor's murder, Holden is killed in the very same building. Resident advisor Rylan Pierce feels crushing responsibility. He wonders whether he failed to notice a stranger entering the dorm, whether he somehow failed to protect his students. Investigators recover the bloody shoe prints, the jacket, and the knife. They quickly determine the knife belonged to Holden himself. The investigation slows when interviews begin. Every conversation in Cogswell Hall and with anyone connected to Holden must go through interpreters, stretching the process over several days. Still, the agents press forward, certain the heartless killer is within reach. The killer had gained easy access to both rooms and committed the crimes unnoticed. It is clear he lives on campus, most likely inside the dormitory itself. Only someone with that level of access could move without drawing scrutiny. Investigators learned that Rylan Pierce, who discovered Trevor's body, lives across the hall from Holden. Rylan is devastated. Both young men were his students. He asks himself what he did wrong, whether he failed to protect them. They treat him as a possible suspect. Rylan is furious that anyone could imagine him capable of murder. His DNA is tested and does not match evidence from either scene. Attention turns once more to Preston Hale, the man originally charged with Trevor's murder. He happens to be in Washington at the time of Holden's killing and is scheduled to testify before a grand jury the next day. Investigators worry he may have returned early, still possessed access to the dorm, and committed the second crime as well. Trevor's parents collapse under the weight of the news again. They had believed Preston was responsible, yet he was no longer enrolled. Did he come back? Did someone else kill Holden? What is happening? The theory unravels when Preston's grand jury testimony reveals that he confessed only to pushing Trevor during an argument, not to killing him. The detective had seized on the admission of violence and treated it as a full confession without carefully analyzing whether it fit the actual crime. Without a true confession and without DNA linking him to either scene, Preston is cleared. Investigators have no other leads, yet they remain convinced the killer lives on campus. The peaceful, tranquil atmosphere of Gallaudet has been violated by 2 murders in a single dormitory. Despite hundreds of interviews, no witnesses saw or heard anything during either crime. Everything now hinges on the physical evidence. The bloody shoe prints trailing from Holden's room come from a specific cross-training sneaker of a major brand. Those prints are useless until investigators have something to match them against. They also believe the killer may have been injured in the struggle. Without a proper combat knife that protects the hand, a kitchen or paring knife can slip when it strikes bone, cutting the attacker's own hand. A break finally comes when Holden's bank alerts them to a possible forged check. Someone cashed a check supposedly written by Holden to Darius Quill during the period when Holden was already dead. Darius Quill Jr., a sophomore from Guam, lived across the hall from Trevor and was the same student who first reported the odd smell coming from Trevor's room. Security footage from the bank shows Darius cashing the check. A notation on the check reads, "Old laptop." Detectives grow more suspicious. Both victims had been acquaintances of Darius, though not close friends. Even after transferring to a nearby dorm, he still had access to Cogswell Hall and was seen there socializing with students. They bring Darius in for an interview, looking for undeniable physical evidence, cuts on his hands, a telltale sign of a struggle with a knife. They examine his hands and find the cuts. Despite these signs, Darius denies everything. He claims he never entered Holden's room, never received a check from him, and knows nothing about a laptop. Lies can be as revealing as a confession. After the earlier mistake with Preston, investigators move carefully. They use the lies, the check, the videotape, and Darius's admission that he owned a certain type of shoe matching the bloody prints to develop probable cause for a search warrant of his room. Just as they prepare the paperwork, Darius shocks them by coming forward to confess. He has spoken with his girlfriend, admitted the murders to her, and she has convinced him to do the right thing and turn himself in. He walks in and confesses to killing Holden. Shown the knife, he confirms it is the one. He explains that he brought a knife of his own, but saw a larger one belonging to Holden and chose to use that instead. He describes stabbing Holden, watching him rise and fall, stabbing him in the cheek, struggling as Holden tried to defend himself, getting blood on himself, and attempting to choke him. Afterward, he took the wallet and checkbook, returned to his room, and began forging checks. I went into the room with little more plan than to steal and to kill. He did a poor job covering his tracks and went far beyond what was necessary. The overkill was completely unnecessary. Detectives ask if there is anything else he needs to say. Darius answers that he also killed Trevor Langley. According to him, the motive was always money, nothing more. He already had some cash and wanted the additional amount so he could buy things for his girlfriend, matching items in purple. The robbery motive that drove the killings proved very different from the theories that had guided the investigation. Investigators still need concrete physical evidence. When they search Darius's dorm room, they hit the jackpot. They find the bloody shoes that match the prints leading from Holden's room. They also uncover items purchased with Trevor's debit card after his death. They arrest Darius and charge him with 2 counts of first-degree murder, along with 13 additional counts, including burglary and robbery. When Trevor's family learns of the arrest, they realize they have seen Darius before. On the day they arrived on campus after Trevor's murder, he offered his sympathies. A large poster prepared by the student government hung nearby. When they asked for a pen to sign it, Darius was the student who loaned them one. Celeste realizes Darius is also the mysterious figure she saw lingering in the background of their final video chat. Baron comes face to face with his son's killer at the arraignment. He looks at the young man who took Trevor's life and feels the overwhelming desire to kill him, yet he must sit there and watch the process unfold like any other human being. At trial, Darius claims insanity. His defense is that a mental disorder caused a hand to hover in the air and use sign language to instruct him to commit the murders. Since he could not hear, it could not have been a voice. The jury does not believe him. After deliberating only a few hours, they find him guilty on all counts. He is sentenced to 6 life terms. Special Agent Weston Pryor can finally rest, knowing the children of his colleagues are safe. He had felt a profound personal duty to bring whatever expertise the investigation required, so the killer would be caught quickly, convicted, and locked away for a long time. Trevor's family hopes his murder will not keep other deaf students from pursuing their dreams at Gallaudet. He had found his place, his independence, his freedom. They believe he would never want other students to lose that opportunity.